action. And as you know, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization focused on educating voters and encouraging participation in democracy. The League of Women Voters also supports public education and sees it as the cornerstone or bedrock of our democracy. An observation corps from our action team monitors and reports on school board meetings as a way to inform citizens and encourage their participation in governance.
One more.
We are thrilled that the superintendent of Manatee School District is here with us today. The school board appointed Dr. Laurie Breslin as superintendent on September 9th, 2025. She leads the district serving 55,000 students across 52 traditional, 17 charter, and 8 alternative settings, while leading Manatee County's largest employer with approximately 6,000 employees. She was educated in the Manatee schools. At the University of Florida, she earned a bachelor's degree in communications and public relations, a master's in curriculum and instruction, and a specialist in education. At Argosy, she earned her Doctor of Education in Teaching and Learning. She has participated in advanced leadership training at USF and Harvard. Her early career included teaching English, reading, and advanced placement courses, as well as roles in project management and contract auditing. She's also co-author of Constructing an Online Professional Learning Network for School Unity and Student Achievement, and a contributor to multiple professional publications and presentations. Dr. Breslin has held leadership roles at Booker High School, Palmetto High School, and Manatee High School. She was principal of Sarasota Middle School. At the district level in Manatee, prior to her selection as superintendent, Dr. Breslin served as Director of Secondary Curriculum, Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and Executive Director of Student Support and Family Engagement. She is credited with contributing to improved school grades and student performance in every position she has held. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Breslin. Put your questions in chat. Barb Aaron will monitor the chat questions. So Dr. Breslin, we're going to start with a few questions we sent you ahead of time. And then we'll open the floor for more. Ready? Where are you?
That sounds like a plan. Thank you for the introduction.
Sure. You were educated in Manatee County, worked in Sarasota County, returned to Manatee County in various roles. From this unique perspective, what do you see as our district's structural systemic weaknesses, and how will you or are you addressing them?
Well, I think first and foremost, I just want to say that we have, in my opinion, the state hasn't identified us yet, but I believe we have an A district. We have strong teachers. We have incredible students, the talent. If you, and I know that you all pay attention to our board meeting and see our student celebrations. It could go on and on with the accolades our students have received. And that doesn't just happen without the work of our teachers and coaches and volunteers. And so I would say in my experience as going through the system from student, substitute teacher on up, the one thing that has held Manatee back is just lack of total consistency. And I think that's something that we've really started to move forward on in the past, I would say 4 or 5 years. And I see the results when I go into the classrooms. When I talk about that sustained excellence, I mean, you walk into every classroom and you see that same level of expectation for learning, teaching to the standards, using the approved materials, using the high impact strategies. And until you see that happening in every school and every classroom, you're not going to score the high marks according to the state metrics. And so that also reveals something else that has hindered Manatee County in the past, and that's just the fragmented systems. You know, you work in silos that sometimes in a district it can happen, and I've seen it happen in this district. I would say that the strategic plan that was implemented, that we're coming up on the 2026 end of that strategic plan and then moving into plans for the new one, has done a great job in ending those silos. but we're still working to get all the gears working in the right direction. And then I would say just really being proactive. And many times, and in education, have to be reactive and we have to pivot. And I totally understand that and respect that is a challenge of our jobs and what we sign up to do for public education. But we can't always be that way. We have to get in front of things. And I think we've been able to do that in the past many years. And I know in some of the other questions, some of these systems that I speak of, those examples will come forward. So I don't want to spend too long on this one question because that'll stop us from getting to the examples that will come up.
Great, thank you. Many would say, and we've heard this, that public schools have become a battleground for politically driven culture wars, with often misrepresented descriptions that are then stated as in need of a fix. And these then have put certain demands on the district to comply. What's your reaction to this observation?
So I would say one of the things I see as a parent and in society is that, yes, it's very easy to jump into something and then it goes viral. And then before you know it, we're focused on being reactive to a situation instead of focusing on our various goals that we have set forth. So I think public education should be a place of stability, opportunity. It should be a place of trust. And I try very much so in my role, both professionally.
So I have 2 arms, 2 legs, so that can.
Hold on, just
It's iPhone 3 is not on mute, Marilyn.
yeah, I'm trying to find Pat Simmons. Could you put yourself on mute, please?
I don't know how.
Put your cursor down to the bottom of your, well, you're on a phone, aren't you? Seems like I should be able to mute you, but I can't quite.
There it is.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Hey, Laurie, you'll continue. I'm sorry.
Sure, absolutely. So I try, as I was saying, very, very much so, not to engage in the political debate myself. I believe my role as superintendent is to implement the state law and the board policies. My focus is always to maintain a focus on student learning. And anytime we dive into the political debate, I think it takes away from the focus of student learning. I want to ensure that schools remain safe and respectful environments for all students, and that is a priority. So yes, absolutely, public education gets drawn into the culture wars. I try in my role to keep our focus on what the board hired me to do and what the public expects of our district, and that is to stay focused on the strategic plan, on what is best for students and what is best for our staff here in Manatee County.
Thank you. We are a district with a diverse population and student body. How are you navigating diversity in this current political climate?
I think diversity is one of our greatest strengths, and the way that we navigate it is just to make sure that we have the same high expectation for all students. I talked about respect for every student and every family, consistency across the board. I believe too, and the best approach to handling student needs, whatever the student needs may be, it starts with making sure that we have the same expectations in every classroom. What does our tier 1 instruction look like? And what do our supports look like around the students? I know that we have met often and talked about our MTSS process. That's a prime example of supporting student needs. Whatever the need may be, whether it's academics or behavior, if you don't have the system in place to provide the interventions as needed, it could be mental health supports, it could be a safety plan for a student, it could be interventions related to literacy. but we have a way to provide it. We have a way to document it and a way to track the data to make sure that what we're doing is effective for the student. And so when people ask, how are you handling the diverse needs of students? Well, that's just it. We have a system-wide approach. We look at our data, we monitor it on a regular basis, and we make sure that our staff has the training they need to be able to provide those supports. And I think we've done an excellent job in moving that along in the past several years as we've implemented a very firm process for MTSS, and I think our data shows it. Since 2022, our third grade reading is up 10%. Our graduation rate is highest as it's ever been, and we're on track to see another 2-point gain going into the next year. That's support happening for all students in the elementary level and then the secondary level as well. That doesn't mean we're done, because I can't tell you that every graduate has a college or career plan, and I want to be able to tell you that. I can't tell you that our third grade is reading at the level I'd like to see. You know, I want to see all our reading achievement well over the 60% mark as an expectation. We don't have that yet. And so although I see the gains, I don't think our work is done here yet. And then I would say the last part of that answer is really relying on our community partners to help us in ways that we can't always do within the instructional time on a school campus. We have a very strong community, and a strong community leads to strong schools, and strong schools feed into a strong community. It's that is the relationship. We have been able to bring programs into our schools, community partnership schools. We've been able to bring, turning points in to offer family resources in the Palmetto area. We work very closely with the city, with the county, with the sheriff, and all of the external organizations that come into our schools on really a daily basis and volunteer in reading or mentoring students. We wouldn't be able to support all of the diverse needs without all of those extra resources from this community.
And I'm curious about being able to look at data disaggregated. How are you doing at being able to pull out various subpopulations?
So we always see our state data that you could pull the subpopulations. We relate it to the federal index, which is the metric that is used both at the federal level and then the state level. And we receive our federal index scores from that, which is based off of those state assessments. We then use that to see where we might need extra support at different schools. If we see a school is showing a federal index below and the marker is 41%. So say 41% of their ELL students are not making adequate gains. We then know that we have to provide more support to that school. And then we use district supports, or sometimes we'll use an extra allocation to the school to support that. Same thing with ESE, which is historically been our largest challenge in meeting that federal index. We implemented behavior specialists 2 years ago, specifically for schools that had high ESE needs, either based on behavior data, attendance data, and/or that federal index. The ESE population wasn't making the gains we expected to see. By providing the extra support to the school, we know we have a person on that campus that is trained. We take that behavior specialist. They are involved in monthly trainings to look at data, to look at learning, to look at our progress monitoring measures, and then on their campus make sure that the students are receiving the interventions needed so that we can improve the learning for that subpopulation.
For those that are on this Zoom that are not education acronym literate, could you remind us what ELL and ESE mean?
Thank you. ELL, English Language Learners, and ESE would be your special ed students that might have an IEP because they have a need that has been identified, and it's very a wide definition that doesn't, exceptional student education, but it's a wide definition that doesn't really define the individual needs of the student because it captures quite a large group of students, and the needs could be needing a self-contained environment, to needing a one-on-one aid, to simply needing, not simply, but needing extra time on assignments for completion.
Which kind of leads us into the next question, and that's the means by which you are using to uncover root causes of students' learning problems and how you're attempting to solve those problems.
And so when you look at the root causes, I think you have to go all the way back. So we've identified one root cause is that we have students that enter kindergarten who aren't ready for kindergarten. It's a very large cause of what we've seen happen in Manatee County over the years. We know that 3 out of 4 students who enter kindergarten behind never catch up. And so then you have this systemic problem. And so what did we do? Well, we infused money, we infused resources into early learning. We've expanded our early learning programs. We have 112 early learning classrooms in our district schools this year. We're adding additional units next year. And we're able to do full day services for Title I schools using Title I dollars to help support that. Our early learning data is showing very strong results, and our students are able to then enter kindergarten more ready to embrace the standards of kindergarten. So that's one solution. We also work very hard to educate our parents on how they can also be the literacy leaders for their child. We have parent universities we started this year. We plan to continue that. We want to make sure our parents have the tools that they need to be able to work with their children on these literacy standards. Our SOAR lab, as you all have heard about and hopefully you've been to, is another prime example of that. Our monthly Bishop Museum SOAR activities, another example. Going to the libraries and engaging in literacy before they enter school, another example. We do this for the love of literacy, yes, but we do this because we need to make sure that our littles enter kindergarten ready to learn. That doesn't mean that takes care of everything we need. One of the problems we realized in moving into first and second grade students, and we started this about 4 years ago, especially when we were having trouble staffing our schools. Our staffing has solidified, and we've been able to retain and recruit teachers. Another root problem, if you don't have high quality teachers in the classroom and a child loses out on learning even for a semester, the results are devastating. And so solidifying our staffing has been a priority, and we've been able to do that. But going back to when we were having troubles with that, especially in our low socioeconomic schools, we partnered with a company called Chapter One. It's a nonprofit company that would bring in experts in literacy to work with small groups of students, and then we saw huge gains. One of the things that we do, which is very important to us, is that anytime we bring in any type of program, this program's a one-on-one direct student intervention program, we measure the correlation, return on investment, KPI, whatever term you want to use, to be sure that it's a viable program for our students. And if we don't see the results, we get that program out of our schools. We saw the results with this pilot. We've expanded it. And in doing so, students that came in not kindergarten ready, we're addressing it before they get to third grade. We can't wait to third grade to see that we've got a major problem. We have to address it earlier. That being said, we know that we have middle school students and high school students who have gaps in their learning. And so addressing those as well, we had to do some pretty intensive professional learning related to foundational literacy for middle school instructors. And we started that several years ago. We'll continue to work on that. If we have students that are showing that they have foundational literacy gaps, we have to have an expert on campus who's able to infuse those gaps. We put in, thanks to the generosity of our community, we were able to fund a literacy coach for every elementary school. Through the referendum, we also have a literacy coach in secondary schools. That's not funded through the referendum, but it's part of the general fund allocation with very specific training so that we can, literacy affects every course the student takes. And so we have experts on campus that we spend a lot of time infusing into so they then can help teachers on their campus.
Mary Lynn, somebody asked a question about what MTSS is. Maybe Dr. Breslin could spend just a couple of minutes explaining what it is. Someone wrote what it meant, but maybe just explain a little bit what it is.
Thank you. Absolutely. The multi-tiered systems of support. It's also has been termed in the past RTI, which is response to intervention. And it's a systematic way to collect data on students who are showing that they are struggling. And they could be struggling with attendance. We have interventions that we implemented this year specifically to address the attendance concerns that we see. Those are documented, and they're documented, one, to make sure that they're working and we can measure ROI, but two, if we have provided appropriate intervention and we're still not getting a response, especially in our younger population, and we bring the parents in and we're still not getting a response, we do have outside resources that we can pull on, and we're using those because if they're not in school, well, we know what the results are. It could be response to intervention or MTSS for behavior needs. We have seen tremendous improvements in our behavior. It is not fixed. There's no fix. Or it was like, is behavior not happening in schools? No, we have behavior problems in schools. What we have, though, is less of the high-end issues. And when I talk about the high-end issues, I'm talking about the students that have to leave their home campus to go to an alternative setting because their behavior has risen to a point that, according to our matrix, it's a point of reassignment. We have dramatically decreased that, much because when I first came in the district, the League of Women Voters came and said, we have a problem. And we looked at it and we said, yes, we do. And so we worked very hard to provide the interventions and we're entering into the students' day-to-day behavior before it becomes a problem that we can't correct. And then with academics as well. So we're required by statute to do interventions related to literacy and or math. And we certainly do those. But we also measure those results. We use a tool called Branching Minds that we can measure and map it out. And then when the parent and the student and the teacher sit down to talk about progress, we have a very clear system that shows this is the intervention. Here's the result of the student. It is working or it is not working. And if it's not working, what are we going to do next? So that's the MTSS system.
Mary Lynn, there's another question that may be relevant. Do you want me to ask it now?
Sure.
Okay. Recently, iReady has been criticized in the media. Does the school district use iReady?
We do not use the iReady platform. We moved away from iReady. I think that was about 4 years ago, I believe. And we use Lexia, Lexia. Lexia is used across elementary schools as a literacy support for all students. We also use it in our secondary classrooms for interventions for students who are showing that they're not proficient on grade level.
Thank you.
Which kind of is a part of the next question that we have is a sense that there's a concern for over-reliance on technology for instructional support. So what is in place to monitor the efficacy of computer-assisted instruction? And what safeguards are there to ensure that personal impact of strong instructional relationships between the teacher and the learner are not usurped?
Right. So technology is a tool. It is not the teacher. And I have seen classrooms where there's an over-reliance of technology. And then those are conversations I've had with the principal. You know, I'm seeing too much computer use in this classroom. Tell me more about it. Here's like how I can tell you we're monitoring it, because we do have a lot of programs that are very helpful for students, and students do enjoy using the programs on the computer. But that doesn't mean it replaces by any means at all the teacher. We started, when I stepped into the role of superintendent, I started hosting meetings with the elementary team or the middle school team or the high school team. I call them IM meetings. It's a little bit corny of a name, but it just means IM progress monitoring. And so when they come in, we pull not only our progress monitoring data, sometimes we'll go down to the school level, the teacher level, if we really see that we have a problem, but we look at minutes used on the technology. And we'll say, so-and-so is clearly using the technology too much. Why are the students on? Because what Evan McCarthy does, he's our director of data and assessment, is he has built reports for us that show the effect of students using a program like Lexia. If they use it for 30 minutes a week, are we then seeing gains for that student? If they're using it for an hour a week, are those gains flatlining? In other words, it becomes ineffective when you overuse it. So we look for that overuse, minutes on task, in the same way that we look for underuse. And we know at what point is too much. And then we relay that back as well through the executive directors of the schools. We say, go to the school, tell them they're overutilizing this, go back into the classroom. All of our principals started this year working with Learning Focused, and they all identified high impact instructional strategies. Those are research-based strategies that we know have been shown to move instruction. A lot of that work is tied into John Hattie, John Sapier, these experts in research with educational task. And most of those high impact strategies are built around student discourse, collaboration. I mean, we know which activities are really going to move to that high level of critical thinking and problem solving. And so by identifying those strategies, the professional learning on the campuses were built around those strategies. And then our school leaders walk their campuses and look for these strategies in the classroom. None of those high impact strategies involve using a computer program, right? And so that's another way we've been able to not only monitor time on technology, but also to teach. If you're not using this, because truly sometimes a novice teacher might be over-reliant on technology, and we have to work with the teacher and show them the high impact strategies and give them the research and tell them why it's important, and then show them how to do it. And then when you walk in, all of a sudden that novice teacher becomes a highly effective teacher because they've been given the tools to teach.
So again, looking at technology, it appears from conversations and observations, particularly when the NAAC was working with the league on our inquiry into the alternative school, it seemed like there was an awful lot of reliance on communicating with parents through focus, without really knowing if it was efficacious to engaging parents in the students' progress, or so we're just curious about what the district is doing to, really make sure that the communication between the parents and the school is really working to the students' advantage.
Agree. One of the things that was brought back this year was the report card conference nights in elementary schools. I can tell you when my young one, or now my old ones, when my old ones were young, we had the parent teacher conference, and I very much looked forward to it. I'm an educator. I'm in this world of education. At that time, I was teaching high school. I didn't understand what was happening in the elementary classroom. And so I thought that time was crucial. I know it went away around 2020, and we lost for a few years that time. That time was brought back this year, which was a huge advantage. We also have increased our family engagement type activities. I've already shared what we do for our early learners, but we also have expanded what we do with our STEM and robotics and our VEX. All of those are opportunities for parents to come and be engaged on our campus. One of the other things that we brought back this year is more student open houses. And so families are able to come into the campus, see what the school has to offer, and ask the appropriate questions. Yes, Focus is a great tool. I can tell you with my oldest child, I relied on it heavily to make sure that he was moving along as he should be moving along, because he was a little bit of a reluctant learner. And so I think it offers that great use. We do have schools that still print report cards for families. If they have a population where they feel that their families may not have as much access to technology. And so we will still print those paper progress reports and report cards. And of course, by any request, we will do that. But we also look for ways to engage with families. I can tell you one way that our communications team has done, which has been a phenomenal change this year, is that they are measuring metrics on how parents are opening up communication. And we have found that actually communicating via text seems to be the hot spot to get information out. And I can tell you, as a working parent myself, I very much appreciate that. When the principal calls me every Sunday night, which the principal does a call at every Sunday night, giving the state of the school, I generally don't pick up the phone and listen to the voice. I'll read it in my email, but the important things will also be texted to me as a parent. When we did school start times, we went and talked to the board about school start times. The board asked for some follow-up information. We sent that out to parents. It showed up in a text. Parents were easily able to access it on their phone. We had over 5,000 responses in a week, which is a pretty good response compared to surveys that we used to send via email. So what we're doing is we're looking at who's checking Focus. We can run those metrics now. Who's checking the emails, who's checking the text messages. And then we're creating additional invitations to get parents onto campus. And then we're going out in the community, because not every parent is going to come onto campus. And we have been fighting that fight for 20 years. And you know what they say, when you do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. And so now we're going out into the community, and that's the work largely, Omar Edwards has been a huge proponent of that. The parent universities, we host those out in communities. And I think that has gone a long way. When we host a town hall for rezoning, we had several town halls. They were not, truthfully, well attended. But we can go to a community event, we can have tables in community spaces, and we get a lot of questions, we get a lot of visits, and it's something that we'll continue to capitalize on, because that's the way that we're going to get parents to have conversations with us, and specific to how their students are doing. We do open more options for parents. If they can't come into the school, we do virtual meetings and so on. But I really think getting out in the community and using the metrics of communication to see how our parents are responding to information that we're providing is how we continually improve upon that.
And what about volunteerism? It's, prior to the hardening of schools and prior to 2020, it seemed that parents had a lot of access to help at schools, to go into the classrooms, to be a part of the learning and teaching, and that. Is there a need for that? Do you hear people wishing for that? Is there a way to give more encouragement or ways for that to happen that are
Oh, yes, I think there's a need. I truly believe there's a need, not only because volunteers help our schools in so many ways, and I would always encourage that, but also because it's good for students to see parents in the schools. Now, I'm not going to say there's not some challenges with it. We do have to have level 2 background for all of our volunteers that go into our schools, or even a parent to attend a field trip with their child. And that's a new tightening restriction. On top of the level 2, the state has redone their fingerprinting process And so all of our employees have been getting re-fingerprinted. Well, our volunteers that were previously fingerprinted had to go through that same process. And it's a challenge and it's a hardship for families. And we understand that. We do try to offer, especially for families that can't afford the fingerprinting process, it's an extra expense. We do offer a way for schools to let us know if a family needs some assistance, and then we'll cover the cost of that fingerprinting so that the families can be a part of their child's education without cost ever being a factor that to eliminate from that possibility. But we encourage anyone who's interested to volunteer, whether they're a parent or just a community member. We have so many ways to get involved, from Avenue 941, Books for Kids, our Kiwanis organizations. It's a lengthy list of opportunities that can be had depending on what their gift is that they want to give back to the students, whether it be reading with a student, mentoring a student, our Take Stock and Children program. I'm a Take Stock mentor myself. I've had my child for 3 years now. She's a junior in high school, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the experience because I'm a mom of all boys, and I finally have a girl to talk to about, things happening in her life. But I would encourage anyone interested. We do have organizations so they can go straight to a school, but there are steps for safety and security that we make all volunteers do to be sure that our children are in good hands.
Sure. And could you help us with discerning the difference between parental or parent involvement and the term parental rights?
So when I look at this, I think parent involvement is just this active partnership. And I would say for my own child, I would say I'm an involved parent. I attend the school events, I go to the band concerts, I respond to teachers when they have questions, I keep up with the grades. So I would say I have parent involvement with my child, even though I'm not able to volunteer in the classroom every day because of my job. But being active in SAC, PTO, that's a plus. I can tell you, I don't go to a lot of PTO meetings, but I still would say I have parent involvement. Now, when you get to parent rights, one, we follow statute, right? And there's some specific statute with the rights of parents. But I would also say parent rights is the right to access to information, the right to transparent information, the right to the ability to make informed decisions about their child's educational framework. That would all fall within that parent right category, if that makes sense. Either way, I would say whether we're talking about parent involvement or parent rights, the key to it is just mutual respect. We respect the wishes of parents and try to communicate well to parents, and parents respect the work of our staff and try to communicate fairly to our staff.
Okay, and in the climate of choice, meaning charters, vouchers, magnet programs, academies, the kinds of things that distinguish one type of learning from another. I'm always curious about how we demonstrate the possibility that your traditional public school might be the right choice. Because
right.
We're always promoting other choices, but we're not necessarily promoting that choice in terms of how it's distinctly different than the alternatives.
Right. So I think a couple things. One, as you all are, many of you all were educators. We did not go into education because we had a marketing background, but yet now we've all become tasked with being really strong marketers. You know what I'm saying? Public education. We have to market it, is what I should have said. I got to tell you, when I first got my degree in public relations, I never thought that I would really use that degree. I knew right off the bat I didn't like the field, but yet I feel like now I use it all the time. So our communications team, first and foremost, has done a phenomenal job in getting our messages out. I'm not on social media, but I do see what they put on our website. I do see our good news stories, and I'm very proud of what they have accomplished in showing the accomplishments of our students. We do in our data reports, we now separate our traditional district managed data against data of charter schools so that the public can see. We have charter schools that perform extremely well and have really great, unique programming. We have some charter schools that need a little boost. We have some district schools that we're working on a little boost. So I think providing that data to parents is important so they can make an informed choice. I truly believe in school choice. I took advantage of it when I choiced my son to one of our district managed schools, but I choiced him from his zoned high school to Southeast High School. I children at Manatee and children at Southeast at the same time, which was a little bit of a navigation challenge, but it was best for my children, and it's where they wanted to go, and we supported that choice in education. So I don't dislike school choice a single bit. I do think, and I know that we are making holistically greater gains in our public education school system here in Manatee County. I can see the data, and I know what the data says. I know that the extracurriculars are vast, that a student can access right on our campus. We invite homeschool and charter school students to take part in our extracurriculars, but as you know, it's easier when the child's already on campus. And so continuing to market is something that we will do strategically. We are in a system now that's more of an enterprise where you have to show the programs that you offer. We started offering this year in a very small group, a la carte options for students who might be a homeschool student who wants to take a certain AP class. We let them come on our campuses. We do charge a fee for that. And so now that we've tried it in small forms, we're going to be launching that in a larger form. If there's seats available, or students on their campuses have access to the seats first, but if there's seats available, we will bring in students and families who want to be a part of our campus. If they want to be a part of it, not in a full-time manner, there's an option now. And that's where public education is going, is that yes, we have our full-time students, but then we also have students who want to take part in only a certain aspect, and we're making that available. I believe that we are showing that we have the momentum here in Manatee. I think all of our materials that you see out there in social media and even the news stories you see are predominantly positive. Our enrollment is not going down. Is it going up like it did 3 and 4 years ago? No, not at all. But we're up this year. Our charter schools are up this year, and I applaud that as well. And I actually work very close with the charter schools because their success is our success. If a charter school doesn't do well, we feel that in our district grade. And so I think that partnership is important. They're all our kids. These are all Manatee County kids. And so what I can do to support a student that needs help, a teacher that needs help, I'm going to do it for the betterment. But at the same time, I'm going to brag and show that our district-run schools are strong. Absolutely. And so I want everyone to know that through our data and through our student wins in arts, sports, music. If you haven't been over to Parish Community High School to see Cinderella, you have to go. It is phenomenal. It's like seeing a professional production. So I'm very proud here of the things happening in Manatee County.
Fantastic. Barb,
I have a couple of questions. Yeah, we do. First of all, if people are interested, there is in the chat the website for Take Stock for people who might be interested in being mentors. So you can go to the chat and access that website. Somebody has a question regarding the types of professional learning that is being provided to teachers to gain the information and skills needed to implement the kinds of educational practices that meets students' educational and personal needs.
Great question. So we started, and this was when Derek Jensen came on board as our deputy of instruction. he said, hey, I want to do this. We had a grant. We were trying to figure out what to do with these grant dollars that the state was giving us. It's like, I want to do a giant professional learning conference. I want to invite every teacher in the district. I want to pay them their hourly rate. And I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be a doozy. But we went after it, and we used our student data, whether it be our mental health data, behavior, attendance, academics. We used all the data to determine what the needs were through professional learning that we knew we should bring in our district. And of course, we always look at research as well to make sure that what we're bringing is going to meet the needs that we're seeing. And we offered our first summer refresh conference. And it was 4 days. Teachers were making their hourly rate, and we invited them. It was, this is during the summer, so they're invited to come. They don't have to come. And I can tell you, day one started off with pretty good attendance, but the attendance grew as the week went on, because teachers talk to other teachers and they'll tell you it's good or stay home. And so we want them to say it's good. And the teachers found a lot of value, and we were able to, in large masses, take our teachers through a conference-like atmosphere and make them feel like the professionals they are. When you go to a conference, you feel like a professional. You're treated like a professional. We do the same thing. So that grant ran out, and we moved on and said, how are we going to keep funding this? Because we had great results. And so we did it again, and even more teachers came. And it got even bigger. We're doing it again next year, and we'll continue to do that. So that's for teachers who are able to come. It's usually right before school starts, before they go to their in-service week. We do offer the training during in-service week. We do have 2 professional learning days during the school year. There's never enough time. We believe that if we don't have strong in-house professional learning led by our school leaders, we're never going to make a dent. And so we are infusing knowledge into our school leaders as well, but we're also using our other teams, our SSSs, to help teach classroom management. Our SSSs would be our school supports for disciplinary type situations, our behavior specialists to help teach how to properly give interventions for ESE students. And then we're bringing those to campuses to try to help teachers as well. Is it perfect? Not at all. But we're able to, within the contract, provide professional learning for teachers in ways that we haven't been able to previously do.
There's another question. How do students outside the public school system access our extracurricular offerings, such as other school, like TSA, FFA, sports, music, those kinds of things?
So this is all rooted in statute as well, and the statutes tend to change annually. And so we see another change coming forth this year. They always add a little bit more clarification. But through the Step Up scholarship program, we will have a district account. So this year we did some slight a la carte things just to kind of put our toes in the water. So every district in Florida is encouraged to have a Step Up account that parents can go onto. So I'm speaking really for students who might be receiving the Family Empowerment Scholarship to attend homeschool or private school or so on. They could then go into this account, and then they could pick from the menu of options from the district and then participate in those options. When we look at charter students are able to participate in any sport or extracurricular that does not exist on their campus. So if you're a student at Lakewood Ranch Prep and you play lacrosse, I don't think Lakewood Ranch Prep has lacrosse. Don't quote me on that, but I don't think they do. If that student is zoned to Lakewood Ranch High School, they're allowed to try out for the lacrosse team. Same thing with like a football situation or a band situation. We do have a homeschool student that goes to Lakewood Ranch High School and takes band class and participates in band. That's the only participation they do at Lakewood Ranch High School, but allows them that outlet, that extracurricular that maybe they can't get in their homeschool type environment.
Okay, that's all I have for the moment, Marilyn.
All right. Well, are there any closing remarks that you would like to make, Laurie?
Well, I appreciate the time, and I appreciate that you all are such strong supporters of public education. Like I said, I believe in school choice, but I believe public education is the key to a strong community. And if we don't have a good, strong public education system, our community suffers. And so keep supporting all that we are doing in public education. We have some good things coming. The strategic plan, I know many of you have been involved in that process, is in the works, which will direct our work going forward. I can say without a doubt that we're going to continue to work on our graduation rate. But beyond that, we're going to strengthen our college and career readiness. We're looking at a program to bring to our high schools. Hopefully we'll start the pilot next year for some workforce readiness. And it involves conversations with our local businesses and the chamber to make sure our students have the skills to succeed, whether they're college or career, whatever the path may take them. We're going to continue to recruit high quality teachers. I know that surrounding districts have had staff reductions. We have not. So be sure if you're on social media to let everyone know. We have a job fair this Saturday, and we are looking for high quality teachers to fill our classrooms. And we're going to continue to really optimize our use of resources. And I say this to let you know, we are blessed to have started the year in a really good situation as we came off of ESSER. And I'm going to credit Cindy Saunders. I'm going to credit Jason Wysong. They handled it beautifully and put the district in a good financial situation. We're going to stay in a good financial situation. And so we're looking at all of our programs. We're cutting where we need to cut. And when I say we're cutting where we need to cut, we're cutting in places that aren't affecting positively the classroom and looking at programs carefully. We just made a change with one of our IT programs, and it's a significant cost savings annually. That cost savings can be applied to the appropriate places that impact student learning. We are working to strengthen our ROI measures, which will be part of the strategic plan, so that we can tell the public anything that we do and every dollar we spend, what that return on investment is. It's very important that we're able to share that publicly. And so we'll continue to work on that. We have it, but I don't think we have it yet at the level that we want it. Because the public needs to know that although enrollment has increased, our top level positions at the district have not increased. Our teachers have increased, and we have been pulling that data, and we'll bring that out for the public to see, because I think that's could easily be a problem if we're not careful on our staffing, because that's predominantly where our money goes. We'll continue to work on those innovative spaces and attendance. Anything you can do to help us get the word out that attending school is vital. Showing up matters is our slogan this year. Although I see improvements, I don't see it across the board, and I don't see it in subpopulations that need it. So we'll continue to work on attendance measures, and then accelerating growth for the students that show those gaps. Acceleration and learning is key. And so I think you'll see those key points resonate in our strategic plan, and just keep supporting what we're doing in public education, because we need you now more than ever.
So I'm going to close with a couple of comments that are in chat. Genuinely impressed with the depth and breadth of Dr. Breslin's knowledge and understanding of students' educational as well as personal needs. She shared methods to address them. Excellent presentation. You can tell Dr. Breslin has a passion for her job, and we are lucky to have her. So thank you so much, Dr. Breslin, for spending the afternoon with us, and we really appreciate all your work.